It's Super Bowl week, Rube.
How come we're not out there?
Yeah, the Eagles didn't hold up their end of the bargain on that. Kind of a weird feel. Like it's amazing. It feels like the Eagles season ended like months ago, but you know, we thought there was a chance we'd still be covering the team right now.
Yeah, there was a point where I thought there was a pretty good chance that we would be out in Santa Clara for everything. Seems like an annual right for this team going to the Super Bowl. We've been to a bunch of them. You kind of feel left out, like it's all going on. Media Day was last night without us. Radio Row is fully occupied without us. It's kind of tragic.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Maybe.
This is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan, Ruben Frank, and Dave Zangaro. We're not going to talk a ton of Super Bowl today. We have a little bit of Super Bowl stuff we'll get to in a bit. We have questions to answer from all the listeners at home, but we're going to start with more coaching staff talk, and we'll get into a few things have happened since the last podcast. The biggest news, Josh Grizzard added to the coaching staff as passing game coordinator. Of course, he was one of the candidates to be the offensive coordinator, so the Eagles kind of hired two of those guys, so we'll talk about what that could mean for the offensive coaching staff. But first, let's talk about the defensive coaching staff. Over the weekend, Rube, Jimmy Kemsky from Philly Voice reported that not only had Vic Fangio been contemplating retirement, but the Eagles had actually reached out to Jonathan Gannon to gauge his interest and had talked about reaching out to Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would have actually tried to bring Gannon back after the way it ended here. That would have been about as unpopular a move as maybe hiring Rich Kotite in '91 after Buddy got fired. I mean, and I think Gannon's a good coach, good defensive coach, but the way it ended, I mean, there was legitimate questions about how committed he was to preparing for the Super Bowl when he was interviewing with the Cards that week. Cost the Cards a draft pick. So I don't know how you sell that to your fans. I mean, you could do it and then just deal with the fallout, but that would not have been a popular move. Schwartz, I think, would be. I don't think Schwartz is beloved here like Jim Johnson or Vic, but I think he's a terrific coach. We saw it in Cleveland. Of course, he's still property of the Browns, so if you did want to hire him, you'd probably have to give him a draft pick or some sort of compensation. But he's a really good coach, and I think people would be happy with him. But I think it looks like Vic's going to be back. The timing has been weird because of the whole Christian Parker thing, and he's been seeing. We've talked about this for a couple of years that he's kind of the heir apparent. But you can't if Vic's not ready to make a decision and Christian has this offer from the Cowboys, you can't tell him, "Can you just wait? Can you just wait a couple of weeks so we know what Vic's going to do?" It's not fair to Christian Parker, and you can't tell Vic to hurry his decision. It's not fair to Vic. So there was a possibility that they would lose Christian Parker and Vic would retire, and then you'd be stuck without your heir apparent, who I think is going to be a very good coach. So there's a lot of different things happening here. I would assume in the near future, Vic will make it very clear what his plans are.
Yeah, and look, all indications are that he's going to be back this year. But, he's 67 years old. He's coached for a long time.
47 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time in anyone's career who's coached that long where they're got to really think about, hey, do I want to – it's a lot of work to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. They have to make sure that they're really committed to it, because if not, Vic's not the kind of guy who wants to half-ass it. Like, he wants to be the defensive coordinator he's always been. So it takes some time to step back and make sure he wants to continue doing it. The good news is it seems like he's going to come back. And I mean, it's hard to imagine what kind of position they'd be in without him right now.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, there's other good defensive coaches out there. I thought Sean McDermott was an intriguing name. I think he might want to take the year off, but a guy who had success here, quite a while ago before we went to Carolina, available. I think Clint Hurt would make a good defensive coordinator. He did it with the Seahawks for a couple of years. He's a very highly regarded guy in that locker room. But
interviewed with the Dolphins this offseason for that job.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's one of one. I mean, and we'll get I know he's a finalist for Assistant Coach of the Year. He probably won't win it, But just being one of the top 5 in that category speaks volumes. And I think it was mainly offensive coaches and the finalists. I voted for him first, just for full disclosure. I just think the job he's done the last couple of years has been remarkable. You lose Josh Sweat and Milton Williams and other guys in Slay and Isaiah Rodgers, and you have the number 1 defense in the league. I mean, it's or close to it, depending how you measure it. He did a remarkable job both years, and he's not irreplaceable. Nobody's irreplaceable, but he's damn close.
Yeah, and it's more than just like, man, he's a good coach, you lose him, but like they've built this defense, especially like you think about the resources they put in the linebacker. I mean, this is a team that historically like never paid linebackers, didn't draft them high. And in the 2 years he's been defensive coordinator, they drafted a linebacker in the first round and they paid top dollar for Zach Bond on a 3-year deal. Like it's been a departure from how they've handled positional value before him. So it's like you've slanted everything you're doing defensively to his scheme, and they chased that scheme too before they got him. They had Gannon running some of that stuff. They brought in Sean Desai because he had coached under Vic Fangio. Like they had been chasing this style, and to finally get the guy who created it and masterminded it all in the building was a big deal.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, the personnel now is a excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
It's okay. You're allowed to sneeze if you want.
I've never had to sneeze on the podcast before.
You still haven't done it.
No, I know.
What happened? You just swallowed
went.
that sneeze?
It came and went.
Okay.
But it'll probably come back.
All right. We'll make sure to let everyone know when he comes back, and
I will.
We'll go from there.
Full disclosure. But yeah, he's just seen everything, and you just have so much confidence in that group. And look, they have talent there too. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do if you lose him. I don't know where you go. You're not going to have the same. I mean, maybe Clint Hurt can. I mean, he's had a couple years under him, but he's one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's the feel he has for it too. Like on game days, calling games,
Yeah.
just he's seen everything, and he just has like, it seems like every button he pushes is the right button, right? It's like a blitz here, a blitz there, this coverage here, this coverage there, and it always seems like he kind of has his finger on the pulse of what's needed at that time, and he's not afraid to do something a little unorthodox, which is fun to watch too.
Yeah, you're right. And I think the most impressive thing about Vic for me, and he'll deny this, he says there's no such thing about as halftime adjustments. You're constantly adjusting throughout the game. And I guess that's true, but his defenses are always better in the second half. And he figures out what a team is doing. And I think the best example, I mean, that Chiefs game, Mahomes was running all over the place. And what do you have, like 55 rushing yards in the first half? They figured it out. They figured out how to defend him. And he I think, had 2 rushing yards in the second half, and Eagles won the game out at Arrowhead. Whatever a team is doing early, he takes that away. And that's a brilliant thing to be able to do.
Yeah, he's great at adjusting. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So
and
it looks like they're
fun
still
to
going to have
around.
him.
He's
Man, it would stink if they lost him.
He's just so much fun to have around. I mean, like I've said, I covered him with the Stars when he was a young guy just starting out. It was his first pro job. So it's kind of cool to be back with him. Even though he still gives me grief about missing that one day when I had a doctor's appointment. Oh, Rube, thanks for showing up. It's like, I think it was a month ago. I missed one day, but yeah, all signs are he'll be back, and that's like priority number 1 right now. Like, I know our producer for Huddle was asking, like, who would they miss more? Like Dallas Goedert, if they couldn't bring him back, or Vic, or say, Jalen Phillips, take your pick of top free agents who they could lose. N'Kobe, like, who would they miss most out of that group?
Vic. Yeah.
And
not even close.
Not even close. And I mean, Dallas Goedert, I think, is a top 5 tight end in the league. And N'Kobe, we know how valuable he is, but This is a different team and a different defense if Vic's not here. So hopefully he's here.
Yeah. I don't remember the timeline of everything, but if we're going to talk about defensive staff, we knew Joe Casper was the defensive backs coach on one of these last pods, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. We already talked about that.
Yes.
It's hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah, because we talked about him going to Miami for a year with Vic and then coming back. Yeah.
Oh, the other good thing too was that Clint Hurt did not get that Miami job, so it looks like he'll be back for this season. That would have been a big loss. I mean, arguably bigger than Christian Parker, because at least with Parker, you had Casper ready to go. I don't really know if they have anyone to step in and be the defensive line coach. So
yeah, there is no assistant defensive line coach. There's Wash who coaches the outside, the overhang players, the edge rushers, outside linebacker ish players. What are we calling them this week?
Oh, you went through all of them, so
okay. But yeah, that would have been a huge loss, and you can always tell like when players bring up position coaches all the time, and I mean Jordan Davis did all the time, Jalen Carter did all the time. They all did. Byron Young, when I talked to him, talked about Clint. I think the players really like him.
Yeah, so for the most part, they'll have their defensive staff back, it looks like, minus Christian Parker. And you'll take that because I think that even though that's a big loss, they knew they were kind of renting Parker unless the timing worked out when Vic eventually leaves, but it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll miss him, but I feel like they're in good hands with Casper.
Okay. Let's talk about the offensive staff a little bit. The big news since
Casper, the friendly coach. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The big news since last week, and this came out on Friday, is that Josh Grizzard is joining the staff as the passing game coordinator, not the offensive coordinator. He was one of the 4 candidates we knew got second interviews for the OC job. Of course, one was Sean Mannion, who gets the job. Grizzard was another. So was Gerard Johnson, and Jim Bob Cooter were the other 3. So they actually hire 2 of these guys on staff, which to me kind of makes the whole process look a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My concern is that, like, was this a front office hire as opposed to a Sean Mannion hire? Just because there's no connection I know of between Grizzard and Mannion. They've never coached together. Maybe they know each other. Maybe Mannion really wanted Grizzard here. Maybe their paths crossed when they were interviewing in the NovaCare and they became best friends. But I'm just concerned that Grizzard was brought in kind of without having a connection with the new offensive coordinator. And that would be a concern to me because that means it's a Howie hire.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Because I would want Sean Mannion to bring in the guys that he wants.
Okay.
As opposed to the guys that Howie wants. And maybe, I mean, hopefully there was communication and Mannion knew and approved and signed off on having Grizzard here. I just don't know that. But hopefully that's the case. Hopefully they work well together.
So your fear is like undermining the new offensive coordinator who's already a really young coach by bringing in someone who has more experience than him?
Yeah, not just more experience, but just doesn't have a connection with him. I mean, new OCs are going to want to bring in their own people, and he's not one of his people. So my concern would be that he was just kind of foisted on Sean Mannion. But I don't know that. It's just, when there's no, usually there's some sort, you look at their bios and you're like, well, they coached together at North Carolina or whatever. You don't have those connections with these 2, but maybe there is a connection there. I just don't know about it.
Okay.
But I think that would be my concern.
But I get that.
Yeah.
For me, I look at it and I think, well, they're bringing in new voices, and I think it could be a good thing that they don't necessarily come from the same school of thought. Now it's like, how does all of it mesh? I think that's a valid question because we've seen before when the front office will throw you a coach, hey, here's Rich Scangarello, figure it out. It doesn't always work well. Right. So I think that's a fear, but I think having Grizzard and Mannion here leads me to believe this offense is going to look considerably different in 2026, which to me is like a net positive because it couldn't look the same.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the one thing I like about both hires is that they're not like retreads, like guys who've been here before, guys who are with the Colts, kind of in that Frank Reich tree. They're not retreads. They're fresh idea guys, young guys, and guys from different from different systems. I mean, the last thing they needed was to run it back. That's why the Jim Bob Cooter possibility wasn't one of my favorites. I just think that's kind of going backwards. And look, they got Shane Steichen from that tree also, so it doesn't guarantee it's going to be a disaster. But
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's like fair to pin Jim Bob into that tree because he did a lot before he linked up with them. But I just like the optics of it would have been really tough.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But I have a good feeling about Mannion. The more I read about him, the more I read what people who are highly respected said about him, the better I felt about it. And I could see why he'd interview really well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really sharp guy, very smart. He loves ball, Dave. Got to have a guy who loves ball.
Okay.
So yeah.
How do you feel about Grizzard as the passing game coordinator? Because I didn't love the idea of him being the OC, but when I heard they hired him as passing game coordinator, I was like, that's a much better outcome.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't want him as OC either. My only concern would be what I just said, but I don't fundamentally have a problem with having him here as passing game coordinator.
Yeah. And sometimes I think passing game coordinator, it's that can be the idea guy in a way. It doesn't have to be from your same school of thought. In fact, I think it helps to have someone who's not like day-to-day coaching a position to have the ideas to be able to take a step back. So I kind of, if there's got to be someone from a completely different school of thought, I like that it's in that position, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's imperative that whoever, the OC and the passing game coordinator and any, whether there's quarterbacks coach, or if that's something Mannion might have that label as well, that title, that there's communication and synergy among all of those guys because they didn't have that this year. And you throw Nick in there too.
Sure.
Just you have all these offensive minds. They've got to be able to work together, and it can't look like it looked like this past year.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot of work in the off season that needs to happen even before OTAs. Like Nick, it has to be like Nick, Sean Mannion, Stoutland has to be, if they bring in a different run game coordinator, that guy has to be there, has to be Grizzard. They have to sit down and figure out, all right, who's on the team? Do we think we're going to have AJ Brown? Do we know if we're going to have Lane Johnson? And then you start to build the offense around the strengths of the players you have, beginning with Jalen Hurts. You have to just basically build an offense from scratch with concepts that you've used before in different places, but you have to be able to sit down in a room and figure that out because it has to mesh. It's not like some concepts might not mesh with others. You have to figure out how to marry run and pass. You have to figure out all those things before the players are even on the field, and then you have to start installing it. So there's a lot of work to be done this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree that number one has to be, how can we get Jalen Hurts to be elite? Because he can be elite. We've seen it. And he was I would say he was elite the first month and a half of this past year. He just wasn't after that. And I'm not going to put all the blame on Patullo. I think Jalen probably deserves some of it. Nick probably deserves some of it. Scott Loeffler probably, I'm sure, deserves some of it. But for this team to be great, Jalen has to be great. So the new coaches, the whole group, that has to be their first priority, is how can we get him back playing the way he was when he was a star in this league. And that means running when it's the right time to run, and it means throwing when it's the right time to throw. And it's tough though. I mean, right now we're sitting here in early February, we don't know AJ's status, we don't know Dallas Goedert's status, we don't know Lane Johnson. There's three of their best offensive players. Mm-hmm. We don't know if they're going to be here or not. So maybe Howie knows more than we do, but there's some serious questions to answer before you can even start building that offense. I would think.
No, that's a good point too. I guess the first order of business is going to be figure out the rest of the staff on offense. I think it's probably going to be a blend of the guys who are here, but Sean Mannion deserves the right to bring in at least a couple of his own guys, make some choices to surround his staff with people he trusts. And we'll see who that is. I mean, I would think Stoutland at the top of the list is going to stay. I would think Jamal Singleton makes a lot of sense to keep around. After that, I think it's probably fair game for the other offensive coaches.
Yeah, I think wouldn't be surprised if he brings in his own wide receivers coach. Aaron Moorhead's been here since 2020, and I think Devontae and AJ were. I'm not saying he didn't contribute, he didn't help, but they would have been stars under any wide receivers coach. Nobody's really developed under him as far as a young guy coming in. So wouldn't be surprised if that position has changed. I don't think Parks Frazier is going to be here. I would think there'd be if Mannion doesn't want to also be the QB's coach. By the way, he's the fourth Packers quarterbacks coach to join the Eagles staff.
Wow.
Because Zeke Brakowski was quarterbacks coach with the Packers back in the Bart Starr days. Actually, when Bart Starr was the coach, he was offensive coordinator here under Buddy, and then Marty was quarterbacks coach with the Packers as well, and then obviously Andy. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, the first order of business is figuring out what the roster is going to look like, because you can't build an offense if you don't know who's going to be on the team.
Well, like I said, I think first is figuring out which coaches.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and I would think he'll bring in at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, what do you think about Scott Loeffler? Kind of an outside hire from last year.
Yeah,
he only came here because Doug Nussmeier went with Kellen Moore to New Orleans. You would think Sean Mannion's going to want his own quarterbacks coach, right?
I would think so. Yeah.
Especially like that being his background.
Being a quarterback, an NFL quarterback, and a quarterback's coach.
Yeah.
Now, some of those guys do it themselves, offensive coordinator / quarterback's coach.
That would be a lot, though, for
a new young guy.
A 33-year-old guy who's been coaching for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I keep going back to that with Mannion. Like his background as a quarterback, that part makes sense to me. Because if he can get the most out of Jalen Hurts, then the hire is all worth it.
Right.
And he's got to earn Jalen's trust to be able to implement things, but I think there's a decent chance that he's able to do that.
I agree. Yeah.
I've really enjoyed doing some reporting on Sean Mannion, just like learning a little bit more about him. And it seems like he's like, I understand why Nick Sirianni especially would really like him. Like a lot of the things have like come up independently from me asking about them. It's like whether it's communication, whether it's fundamentals, whether it's situational football, like all the things that Nick always preaches, I've heard about Sean Mannion, which is, important when you're trying to find someone who kind of like is in lockstep with the way you operate.
Can we do a little reveal on the story you're working on?
Yeah, sure.
It's a fun story.
Yeah, Sean Mannion was the offensive coordinator for the West team at Shrine Bowl this year, so it was a chance for him to step into that role before getting this job. The people I've spoken with so far seemed really impressed by the way he handled that. And coaching in an all-star game like that's really tough because you have just a few days to basically figure out what kind of offense you want to run. You have to dumb it down. You have to make it pretty vanilla. You have to make it digestible. You have to teach it to a bunch of kids coming from all over the country who have played in different offenses for different coaches. And then you have to go out there and actually practice and then play a game. Like it's a lot. And it seems like he handled it all well.
And when can we look for that story?
Whenever I finish it.
Okay. Next couple of days, check that out.
Yeah.
Just from what you've talked about, the people you've talked to, it's going to be a great story. Yeah. And yeah, you feel good that he had that responsibility and did well with it.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of rare too, because like most of the coaches for those all-star games are from non-playoff teams. But the Shrine Bowl wanted to get him, so that the Packers lost in the first round and they were able to.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting whenever we're allowed to talk to him to hear his thoughts about the Shrine Bowl and how he went about doing that. So far, no sign of when we'll be chatting with with Sean.
Hopefully at some point.
Hopefully at some point in this calendar year.
I mean, you can argue that, like, he's one of the most important people to the 2026 season.
Couldn't agree more.
Like, and I'm not saying they were an offensive coordinator away last year, because I think a lot of the blame that went to Kevin Patullo was probably unfair. But if they had a better offensive coordinator last year, would they have been better? Would they have been a more competitive team offensively? Like, absolutely, they would have been. So,
no question.
I think he's one of the most important people for this upcoming season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And when you do your list of the most important Eagles, that's usually just players, though, right?
It's only players, yeah.
Right, Adam. Just Adam for the heck of it. He was a player a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's not that far removed.
He's not.
So all 10 head coaching spots are full right now. It took a long time, but the last two, Clint Kubiak and Mike LaFleur, are getting those jobs in with the Raiders and with the Cardinals. So all 10 have now been hired or will be hired. And all these offensive coordinator jobs are starting to get filled too. The most recent one, Matt Nagy, going to the Giants. So that's kind of a fun part of this offensive coordinator search too, is that so many of the OCs the Eagles were interested in, talked with, are in other landing spots now.
Yeah, Matt Nagy going to New York with Harbaugh is an interesting one. Harb's, it's kind of like the Andy Reid tree kind of coming back together, the two branches kind of reconnecting.
I saw a very funny graphic the other day that Adam Schefter put out of the Sean McVay coaching tree.
Yeah.
And like some of the stretches, they had Wade Phillips on it because Wade coached with them. It's like Wade was coaching in the NFL before Sean McVay was born.
He was.
What are we doing?
He was. Wade was Eagles defensive. He was Buddy's first defensive coordinator here in 86, 87.
It made me laugh a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he'll be good for Jackson Dart. I would think he's got a former quarterback and a sharp guy. But
I don't know.
I think he's a sharp guy, but we'll see. We'll see how
That's
they do.
a pretty uninspired hire to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll see how they do with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if you didn't have a ton of success with Patrick Mahomes, I'm not sure what you're going to do with Jackson Dart. I think that's fair. But
it's funny because if you just took a step back and said, hey, here are the Eagles, here are the Giants, they both need offensive coordinators. Which team should hire the veteran? Which team should hire the younger big swing? You could really make a case that they both should have done the opposite.
You can make that case.
Now there's like the individual of it, right?
Yeah.
And that changes my mind on it, because if it's Matt Nagy, I prefer to have Sean Mannion. But it just like the type is right. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So right now we have Matt Nagy with the Giants, Declan Doyle with the Ravens, Mike McDaniel with the Chargers, Brian Daboll with the Titans, Zach Robinson with the Buccaneers, Bobby Slowick with the Dolphins. So the Eagles talked with all of those candidates who ended up elsewhere. And I find that kind of fascinating as we get ready for this next season.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how all these new coaches do, new head coaches and new OCs. It'll be fun to kind of keep tabs on them compared to where the Eagles are.
Yeah. Now it's going to be unfair, obviously, because all these different coaches have different players and different situations. But what did you make of the Declan Doyle hire with the Ravens? Because it seemed like he turned the Eagles down, or, we don't really know what happened, but it seemed like there was legitimate interest and he thought he was going to stay in Chicago until the Ravens called. At least that's the optics of it.
Yeah, it seemed that way. That one was a little surprising to me. But I mean, I think Lamar is a pretty intriguing guy to want to coach. If you're an offensive coach, quarterbacks coach type of guy, MVP is an interesting guy to work with.
You think so? Yeah.
I mean, I still think he's incredible. I think he's underachieved in his career.
In the playoffs, sure.
Yeah.
Regular season, no, he's been great.
He's been great. I think he's got a lot of good football left. But, yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes.
Of those names, are there any that you're like, that would have been a significant upgrade?
I don't feel that way.
Over Sean Mannion.
I mean, there's no way to really know. I mean, I mean, on paper, you know, McDaniel, it would have been fun to see how that went. I think you could say that would have been a significant upgrade,
Yeah,
but
I think that's the one to me, and it always seemed like kind of a pie in the sky hope that you would get him.
yeah.
But he's like the of all those guys, he's the blend of young, creative, but also experience.
Yeah. And then, you know, I wonder how the Vic, like, I don't know his relationship with Vic.
I don't think that matters.
I don't either. Um, you know, that Dolphins offense was not very good the last couple of years. They had the one big year in 23. So I don't think it's a lock that you get Mike McDaniel running your offense and all of a sudden you have the best offense in the league. So,
well, there was a lot of space between the best offense in the league and where they were last year.
That's fair. A lot of space. I mean, I think they would have been better under him. I'm really bullish on the Mannion hire. I really like it. I think McDaniel is the only guy that I would say there's a very good chance he'd be significantly better, but I don't know that.
Okay. Yeah, he's the one at the top of the list for me. Like, if you're asking me who would I rather have just flat out, I probably would say Slowick still. Just because I've seen him install his own offense. I've seen him call plays, and it went well for a while. After that, though, I think I'm in the territory where, not to get back to the Nagy line, but I think I'm going to use the Nagy line again. I'd rather take the big swing, whether it was on a Sean Mannion or a Declan Doyle or a Charlie Weiss, like a guy who has a lot of potential.
You know what bothers me, and if there's NBA fans out there, hardcore NBA fans, they'll appreciate this. One of my least favorite basketball players ever was a guy named Pace Mannion.
Okay.
Remember Pace Mannion?
I don't.
I think he played for Utah, and then he was in the league for a few years. I think Golden State. I hated that guy. And that last name, I don't think they're related.
Wow, he played for a long time.
Pace Mannion?
He played from 1983 to 2001.
Did he really?
That's crazy.
No, he didn't play that long.
Oh, not in the NBA. His NBA career ended in 89, but then he played overseas for a long, long time. Yeah, played for the Warriors, the Jazz, the Nets, then played for the Rockford Lightning, then the Bucks, Pistons, and Hawks. I mean, his last season in the NBA, I was a baby, so I don't know. Pace Mannion.
Yeah, but hopefully there's no connection there because I couldn't stand that guy.
Okay, we'll make sure. They list him at 6'7", 190? With a beanball?
He was.
Wow.
Yeah, Pace Mannion.
All right. On Pace Mannion, we'll take a break. Come back. We want to talk about some Super Bowl week stories because we're not there this week in Santa Clara.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Escape the cold and catch the Phillies in Clearwater with NBC Sports Philadelphia and Philly Sports Trips. We're teaming up to bring fans the most unforgettable Phillies spring training experience yet. The trip includes Phillies game tickets, beachfront accommodations, round-trip travel, all-inclusive tailgates, and more, plus appearances from Larry Boa, Charlie Manuel, and NBC Sports Philadelphia's own Ben Davis. Book your trip today at phillysportstrips.com. Ruby, you know the trucks left today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the trucks for Clearwater left.
Interesting.
From Citizens Bank Park.
It's always like the first sign that spring is around the corner.
There's nothing I love more than seeing those first images from Clearwater, whether they're still or video, just of like palm trees and baseball. Gets me pretty excited.
Yeah, even that ad that we put up for the...
I have a baseball bat right here. I'm getting ready.
You do?
Yeah. This was here from Phillies Talk. Check out Phillies Talk, the podcast.
That's a Charlie Manuel model, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Charlie was not a great hitter when he played. Great manager. But yeah.
Damn, Charlie taking shots?
What was Charlie's career average? What was his career OPS? I love Charlie, though. I mean, I love that whenever I see Charlie, he asks how Jimmy Salisbury's doing. How's Jimmy doing? You talked to Jimmy lately? He's a good man. I like that Jim Salisbury.
He okay. In the majors, he was a 198 hitter.
Okay. So below the Matt Nagy line.
Yeah, he was below the Matt Nagy line.
Career OPS was 534. So he's kind of like Doug Peterson. You know, just didn't have the playing career, but pretty good. Had success as a manager.
I want to look up his minors stats though, because he was pretty good in the minors, I'm guessing.
Played in the Japanese league.
Yeah, in the minors he batted 290. Yeah, he was a good hitter in the minors and in Japan. Over 300 in Japan.
They have his Japan stats?
Mm-hmm.
He used to tell stories in the dugout. Back when I covered Phillies games, he would tell stories about playing in the minors and playing in Japan. Man, he was the best storyteller.
5 seasons in AAA, he batted 320. 87 homers.
You'd think playing 5 seasons in AAA, he might get called up.
There are some of those guys, though, who end up like, that's just where they end up. I've known some guys like that like they were great AAA players. Every time they get a call to the majors, it doesn't work out, and then they go back to AAA and they rake again.
How about Charlie's season in 74 in Albuquerque? 30 homers, 102 ribbies, hit 329, OPS of 1,000, over 1,000, 23 doubles, couple triples. Albuquerque was that Pacific Coast League, that really small bandbox stadium, right, where everybody hit.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Albuquerque.
We have a Mannion update from Alex. Pace Mannion is former Warrior Nico Mannion's dad. Nothing on the internet about any relation to Sean, so that should make you happy.
I'm very relieved. That would have, like, if we had to go to training camp and Pace Mannion was there.
And you'd know him. He'd be like, why is there an extra light pole out there?
Yeah, so that's a relief. Thank you for that information.
It's Super Bowl week, Rube, and it was opening night on Monday, and they did it differently. I don't know if you saw it. There were like no fans there.
Oh, really?
It looked like it was kind of just like a more tired room with like fewer people around.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah, it looked like they got back to that. It wasn't quite the spectacle, but it got us thinking about like some of our favorite memories covering Super Bowls. So we figured let's just reminisce a little bit. We have some time today. Let's go through them. Rube, I was not there in 2004 in Jacksonville, but that was your first Super Bowl, right?
It was. Yeah, my first Super Bowl with the Eagles. I covered a few.
Okay.
That they weren't playing in. But my favorite memory of that year was actually after the game. The Eagles were staying, and Big Red let about 8 or 10 of us stay in the team hotel in Ponte Vedra Beach. It was that big golf course. I forget what it's called. Sawgrass.
Okay.
So we all say it's a Sawgrass Marriott. So they had a party. Obviously, it was very subdued after the game. And I'm standing at the counter at the hotel trying to set up a shuttle for the next morning to get to the airport. And Corey Simon comes up behind me and says, "Rube, I'm locked out of my room." And I said, "They'll give you another key." And he says, "They won't give me a key because I don't have my ID because it's in my room." And the girl at the counter was like, "I can't give you a key without your ID." So I took my Super Bowl program out and I found the Corey Simon page and I showed it to her. And I said, "This is him. He just played in the Super Bowl. Please give him a key."
Yeah.
And she did.
Yeah, I can't, like, you're already, like, you lost the Super Bowl.
You just lost the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my favorite memory of that week. It was an uneventful week, and it was weird being it was like my first Super Bowl, and I just, I've gone to 3 since with the Eagles, but it was kind of a weird week. I don't have any glowing memories of access. Being in the team hotel was kind of cool.
Well, you've told the story before, so you don't have to get into it all the way, but the McNabb story you did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that Tuesday media day.
You followed McNabb the whole day, right?
Yeah, spent the day with just kind of not interviewing him, just kind of going everywhere he went. They did the spinning. You know how when you see like a guy comes out and says, "Donovan McNabb, Syracuse," and he's like turning.
Yeah.
That I saw how they did that. They had these guys on this big giant, like it looked like a giant record player, if anyone remembers what that is. And you would stand there and the camera would just pan along with you as you moved. Yeah, that was a really cool experience. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I won't tell that story. But then we go to 2017.
Yeah, you have to jump ahead a lot of
Yeah,
years.
13 years.
Yeah, but 2017, that was in Minneapolis and St. Paul. I remember, I have so many memories from that one because for me, that was my.
Mine might be one of my favorites. Is probably one of your favorites.
Okay. Yeah, but like I have so many memories from that week just because it was the first time I covered a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So like I remember all of it. Are you
And-
going to say going to media night?
No,
Okay.
although that was cool.
What was the memory that stands out to you?
There's two. The one was just driving, just landing at the airport. We were on the same flight. We
Oh,
just
yeah.
drove into town and saw this giant billboard of Nick Foles, and we're like, who had been a backup quarterback until a month earlier. And we're like, what is this real? This is really
Do you
happening.
remember the two players on the giant? They weren't even billboards. They were like giant, like.
Yeah, there were screens like.
Yeah. Do you remember the two players?
N-
It was Nick Foles and
Tom-
Brandon Graham.
Oh, really?
I remember
Interesting.
thinking like two of the most unlikely guys to ever end up
Yeah.
on Super Bowl signage, right?
It was, yeah. It was right across from the stadium, I think. We drove out to the
Yeah,
stadium.
the backup quarterback and the first round draft bust up
Yeah,
there
that's
on
right.
on the billboards. But it was so damn cold all week.
It was brutal. Yeah. My other memory of that week is I'd wanted to do the story on Doug Peterson
Mm-hmm.
and just how vilified he was as a player here. And I wanted to get some time alone with him, and I couldn't do it. And then the last day of availability, I was granted access to him walking down a hallway in the Mall of America
Yeah.
after his last presser. And I was told, you have as much time as it takes Doug to get to the end of this hallway.
Yeah.
And it ended up being about 1 minute and 15 seconds. And I got
Okay.
an incredible interview with him about how hard 99 was for him because he was a terrible quarterback. He had an awful year. They were throwing stuff at his family. And he talked about all that and just how here he is, Super Bowl head coach in the same city that he was so hated 18 years earlier. And that was one of my favorite stories.
That week for me, unfortunately, one of my biggest memories is I got sick as a
did.
dog that week. And it wasn't just me. A lot of the players got sick that week, and it was, it was almost hard not to because it was so cold. You're kind of in a giant rooms with a lot of the same people. And yeah, man, I got super sick that week.
Yeah, you were really sick.
Yeah.
I remember going into that Mall of America and seeing the spot where Harmon Killebrew hit the home run.
Sure.
Because that was where Metropolitan Stadium used to be. It was on the same footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And he had hit what was believed to be the longest home run in baseball history. Was it like 574 feet or something?
Like that, yeah.
So you're in this shopping center, and they basically had put a bleacher seat on the wall. They had a home plate, and they showed like how far you hit it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was in the amusement park of the
Mall of America.
which is where there was a media party, and I saw Ronald Darby get on a ride during the media party, which was very funny. Okay, that was 2017.
Yeah.
How about 2022? We are in Phoenix, and I guess where was the Eagles? Scottsdale? Was that where the Eagles hotel was?
No, the Chiefs were in Scottsdale. The Eagles were south and down in Tempe.
They were in Tempe. Okay.
Yeah.
Really spread out. That was one of my memories from that is we had to drive really far to get everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, probably, well, those security guys trying to get into the Eagles facility it was like something out of a movie. But, we did that appearance at a sports bar somewhere.
Yeah.
And
That was fun.
it was crazy. I mean, there were so many people showed up. It was way more than.
Because I don't think we had Eagle Eye for Super Bowl 52.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So this was like our first time doing daily pods for Super Bowl.
Yeah. And we did it on the patio of a sports bar. I think the governor was there before us,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so packed. People were showing up. People were coming with luggage, just flying in from coming right from the airport in Ubers, and there was this huge line, and it was so crowded. But the energy and just the excitement was really a unique feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It was so crowded. And I remember when we left, we had parked across the street in a grocery store shopping center. And like, I think we were like taking turns driving, like it was my turn to drive. And you were like, where are we going? I was like, just anywhere, like, just go. But
That was a fun week though.
it was.
I even snuck out for a hike, I think it might've been Saturday. I was like, I got to get out and do something outdoors.
Yeah.
And I forgot one of those like state parks right near downtown Phoenix, and got out, did a little hike, saw a coyote. It was
Nice.
good. Yeah.
Also, that was the week I did a story I loved on Eric Bieniemy and his time with the Eagles in '99, and how that shaped him as a coach, because he was here with, with Jim Johnson and Pat Shurmur and Harbs and Sean McDermott and Ron Rivera and all these guys that became NFL coaches. Doug Peterson was on that team. And
I got to close the. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. I've told the story before, but I had planned to try to interview him about that. I figured there'd be this huge crowd around him, and I sat down at the table. And actually, Ted Williams' son was coaching with the Chiefs. Ted Williams was here for 17 years, and there was nobody else there. It was just me and Eric Bieniemy. I got him for like 20 minutes, and I was really happy with that story.
I got to close the circle on the Ken Flagel Chris Long tattoo.
That's right.
That week, because Flagel and Chris had that bet, so I got to talk to him about that years later.
Covering Super Bowls are fun.
Yeah, that was also the year I got my sit down with Isaac Seumalo. Spoke to him more in a half hour on like a Thursday than I had his 4 years in Philly.
The one, I'm going to go back to 17 for a second, and just media day. I guess we were at we were in St. Paul at the hockey arena. And we hadn't talked to Big V in like 3 months because he just doesn't like to do interviews. But like the players, it was mandatory that they were there. And a few of us cornered Big V, and Les Bowen asked him, Big V, we've been trying to find you for like 3 months. And he's like, I had treatment. And Les Bowen goes, you had treatment for 3 months? But yeah, that was, yeah.
And then last year, I thought last year was so much fun.
Yeah.
Just being in New Orleans for the week and everything being walkable was like, it's a game changer for those who cover it, which I know fans don't really care.
Yeah.
Stop complaining about it. But like, it was so nice. It was kind of a beautiful thing.
It was. I was putting like 25,000 steps on every day, just because that convention center was like a mile and a half long, and the Radio Row where we did the pod was out there. But yeah, it was some great meals. Working with Spencer, our video guy, was amazing, because he did a great job down there. Anything specific stand out from that week?
Like just experiencing New Orleans for the whole week was fun. And it's more time than anyone should spend in New Orleans, but it's just like they know how to throw a party. So like, like the day before the game, there was like a giant parade with like floats of both teams and like players, like not actual players, but like floats with like likenesses of the players on it. Like that was neat to me, to like how New Orleans just has a party in honor of the Super Bowl.
Remember when we were taping a TV hit over by the river? We were on that like patio behind the hotel, and Jeff Lurie and his son just walked by.
Yeah.
And I ran over and thanked him, because he had talked the night before, and it was just, he's just walking along patio in New Orleans. He was going to see one of the other owners' yacht, I think he said.
Oh, geez.
That was down the way. But yeah, I wasn't invited to the yacht, but it was just odd seeing Jeff Lurie just walking around New Orleans.
Yeah, they're always fun to cover, though. Hopefully we'll get back there and,
Where's next year's
year or
in
two?
LA?
Yeah, next year's LA.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. You want to do some questions?
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time for questions. As always, if you have a question for us, eagleeye@nbcuni.com. QR code is on the screen. I should mention, on Thursday's pod, we'll go through some of our favorite memories from the actual Super Bowls we've covered, from the actual games.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that on Thursday. But question time. First one here is from Nathan. Hey guys, hope that the weather is holding up for you. What is more likely to happen, do you think? And he has 3 options here. Sean Mannion becomes Jalen Hurts' first 2-year plus offensive coordinator / play caller. Number 2, Mannion becomes a head coach of another team in 2027. 3, Mannion becomes the Eagles' head coach in 2027.
I like this. I think him being OC a second year is most likely.
Okay.
I think he might be too young to be you never know. If they have a great offense and a great year and go to the Super Bowl, he could be a high head coaching candidate. But
it's not crazy. Like in terms of age, we just saw Davis Webb get some looks as a head coach,
but not hired.
Not hired.
So I think that's most likely. I think probably second most likely is, I mean, if they're bad enough that Nick gets fired, it's hard to imagine he would be the guy to replace him.
I think it's possible,
It's possible.
but yeah, probably unlikely
would
because if
say-
Nick gets fired, it probably didn't go well.
Right,
And if it didn't go well, the offense wasn't good enough.
right. And he's getting fired too. So I would think second most likely in that list would be that he'd be a head coach somewhere else.
But I do think it's not like a 0% chance that he the
Yeah.
third option is on the table.
Yeah.
Because, he that happens like a lot of times. A coach gets fired and they interview. Like it just happened in Buffalo, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It almost happened in Cleveland.
yeah, and the Bills certainly not like, I mean, Sean McDermott's a defensive coach. It's not like their defense was terrible.
Yeah.
So say they have a great year, great regular season, lose a wild card game, Nick could be gone, and he could make sense as a replacement.
Yeah. Next one is from Eric.
Good question. I like that one.
That was fun. I like those scenario type questions. From Eric, a longtime listener here, grew up in Delco, and tell Rube I ran track and competed in the Penn Relays. Always enjoy listening to you on my commute into work. Question: what will Mannion's first few weeks on the job actually look like? How much time is given to a post-mortem on last season? How many players does he do the individual reach out to? How involved is he with Howie and spotlighting offensive needs for next season? As you say, the Birds don't often make these new coaches available, so I'd be curious to hear your informed perspective about what the first few weeks of a new offensive coordinator looks like.
That's another great question. I think the first thing you do is watch film and see what you have, and just watch as much film of these players as you can, and last year, and just get a sense of, who you want and who you might not want. I think that would be the first thing. And
well, also like we talked about the coaching staff, like that to me, that's
Right.
the first thing is you got to figure out who's with you.
yeah, no doubt. But I think kind of learning the personnel is going to be really important for him during this stretch.
Learning the personnel, and then, like I said, just sitting down with the other decision makers, the other offensive minds, and starting to form what you want it to look like, and the terminology of it all. Are you bringing all that new terminology? Are you borrowing some of the things that they've done here in the past? I don't know all that, but you have to figure those things out.
And I think sitting down with Jalen Hurts as soon as possible is critical.
Now,
You have to build a relationship there.
Yeah. Now that technically, there are limits to
Right.
when they can, what you can talk about, when you can talk based on the CBA, and but you can at least, you can
You can call him up and say, how's the family?
yeah, you can get to know them a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can talk in generalities a little bit.
Yeah. And then maybe try to reach out to AJ Brown and do what you can. I mean,
Sure.
what would it take? What do you want? What would it take for you to want to be here?
Yeah. And hopefully, AJ is willing to listen about what it is this new offensive coordinator has in mind.
Yeah.
From Leonard. Isn't it obvious the main issue with the Eagles isn't coaching? The O-line injuries were the whole story. Saquon Barkley being regularly hit in the backfield, Jalen under pressure almost immediately on so many plays, Juergens back, Mailata's core muscle strain, Johnson's foot, Dickerson's ankle/knee, plus the right guard was new to the position. The ghost of Newt Rockne wasn't going to fix this.
The ghost of Newt Rockne. Yeah, I don't think it was any one thing. Certainly the O-line injuries were a big part of everything. But I don't think it was just Patullo, just the O-line, just Jalen, just Nick. I think it was just a lot of things. Perfect storm.
Yeah, and I kind of don't care to do the blame game anymore because we're past it now. But yeah, obviously if the offensive line was healthier, I think it makes everything a lot easier. They'd been able to lean on the offensive line for how many years before that. So seeing it not be a strength and it actually being a weakness at times was a little jarring.
It was.
Yeah. Next one is from John. I don't want to dwell on the 2025 season any longer than necessary, but I feel like we glossed over Cooper and Q making All-Pro as it came out the same day as a disastrous loss to the Niners. Can we take a minute to reflect on how good these corners are? Can they continue to develop and improve? How much does it make the CB2 role an essential offseason gap when the rest of the secondary has been so good.
Yeah, and I voted for both of those guys as first team because there's now a slot. It's the third year they actually had a slot corner that you vote for, not just corners, which is good. Yeah, I mean, I think Q might be the best outside corner in the league, and we know how good Cooper is. I mean, Howie hadn't really hit on corners, and he sure hit on these two. I don't know what else we can say. I mean, they're only the second pair of corners ever to both make All-Pro. It helps to have that specific slot spot to be able to do that.
But yeah, they're both exceptional. And can they get better? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like there's a ton of room to get better. They're already the best in the league, and that's what All-Pro means. But yeah, I think they can continue to improve in certain areas. I think certainly with Q, like the ball skills could be better in the regular season.
That is crazy.
Still doesn't have an interception in the regular season. So like, I think that in a way, it's almost like surprising he was able to get this recognition without having the stats like that. But it's also where the nerd stats are able to tell the story too. And it's kind of fun that we live in an age now where those matter as much.
Yeah, we didn't used to have those. I mean, nobody kept track of defensive passer ratings or completion percentages against or yards per target. All that stuff is relatively new and helps measure in ways that we couldn't measure in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, do I feel like the stats get a little out there at times and they're hard to digest? Like sometimes, but with a position like that where like it can't just be judged on interceptions because there's so many gamblers at that position that, they win big sometimes, but they also lose big, and you don't want that either. So having a guy as steady as Quinyon Mitchell, like it really does matter.
I mean, the issue with some of those stats is that you don't know who had responsibility, like, for on a certain play. Could have been a guy looks like he got beat, but he was actually going over for help.
Fair, but I think over that's definitely true in like a 1-game sample size, but I feel like over the course of a season, a lot of those things kind of come out in the wash.
Probably.
Yeah. I think you get a good sense of who's good and who's not with those advanced stats.
I agree.
Yeah. And then Cooper, how do you think he can get better? He's already so good.
Yeah, I really don't have an answer. I mean, I guess he can get better for when he's playing outside.
Yeah, I just like incrementally better at all the things, but I mean, yeah, he is to me, he is the best nickel in the league. Quinyon to me is not the best outside corner in the league.
He's top 3.
Yeah. But then again, like I think there are more good outside corners than there are specifically.
Who would you put him behind? Stingley?
Behind Surtain. And then him or Stingley are probably next for me.
Bennett in there? Jacorian?
I was like, who are you talking about? I thought you were like talking about someone serious. It's like, who's Bennett?
Cornelius Bennett. Yeah. I don't know. I guess just the consistency with Cooper is probably the way he can get better. But I mean, they're so lucky to have these guys. They're both still young. I mean, Cooper's still, I guess he turns 23 this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever day the game was. I can't believe it's been a year since all that happened. In
some ways, it feels like it hasn't been that long. In other ways, I feel like it's been 20 years.
Yeah. Crazy.
My other memory from that week was when the security guy wouldn't let me into the Radio Row, like on the last day.
Oh yeah. What was
he said? I had a knife in my bag, and I said, no, I don't. And he said, yes, you do. And I said, you can check it. And he said, yes, you do. And I said, you can check it. And he said, yes, you do. And I was like, I don't know what we're doing here, buddy, but like, I'm not going to pull out a knife that I don't have to give it to you. It was very strange.
That was crazy.
And there was no one even left in Radio Row. Like, if I had sinister thoughts, I wasted my opportunity. It was weird.
One of my other favorite memories, I don't want to go back too much, but I think it was that last day when we were all at that plaza out there by the river, and we were going to meet at the back at the convention center in the Radio Row, and I hopped on the bicycle cab.
We have that video somewhere.
Yeah, because I got on the bicycle cab, and I turn around. You guys, like, Spencer's shooting video of me and like you're waving, and
You know what? Maybe that's our assignment for the next podcast. We'll try to pull out that video and we'll have it ready to go.
we could probably do that.
All right. If you have a question for us, eagleeye@nbcuni.com. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button there and subscribe as well. Rube, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a little FOMO that I didn't expect to have, but like kind of watching the videos of Media Day and everything and reading the stories. I feel like we belong there.
Yeah, always next year. For Rube and Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.